Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join us in our weekend edition of the Hebrew Word Study. It is a day late, but I struggled with the presentation and just feeling like I didn't have all the material that I really needed to present what was going through my heart. And so I set it aside, waiting until, the right moment would come when I could, reach that point. And thankfully, it came the next day as I had downloaded a book that I want to share with you called To Heal a Fractured World. It's by Rabbi Jonathan Sachs. You'll notice here it's available on Kindle for $1.99. So if you happen to have a Kindle, it's a great time to download this. I did that and just have been really blessed by it. And it filled in an area about a word that I was struggling with in this study. So as we remember here, we're going through the Matthew in Hebrew, chapter 5, verse 6, and these are basically the Sermons on the Mount, sometimes called the Beatitudes, but dissecting them, looking at their Hebrew words and trying to find an enhanced meaning and richness, at least in my personal studies, and that I'm happy to share with you. And so um, reading that book filled in the last word of this tsedakah or tzedek. And so with that, let's jump into the verse. You see it on your screen. I'm creating this interlinear with the Hebrew numbers above, and they are hyperlinked to the Bible Hub. And so it provides a very easy way to do your own research without having to go through all the um, knowledge of learning the Hebrew. And so I'm hoping to, be able to share this someday, however long it takes me. But of course, it starts out with Ashrei, Sher Evim, Utsameim. So that would be Ashrei. We've talked about that word. I left it untranslated. It could mean blessed, either that you're blessed by having this or you would be blessed from doing this. But then I found these next words of sherevim, of hungriness, has to do with famine. The ra, the resh ayin Beit is used for times of famine, and then the Sade Mem Aleph is used for also times of famine, but in thirstiness. So, and knowing that Ashrei was admonishing to do something, um, I felt this idea of conveying hungriness and thirstiness. It's something that possesses you because you are in a realm of famine. Your heart is, your body is starving and your heart is reaching out for something to fill that. And so I left it as hungriness and thirstiness. But what you're hungry and thirsty for is not for food or for water. It is to do tzedakah. And that is this word here, 6644. So what I will just unpack this first part of hungriness. I found a paraphrase for me. Of course, it wouldn't fit in the word for word translation, but this ashrei is one who has a constant, relentless striving to do tzedakah. And what was interesting is I found Psalm 107, verse 5, provides quite a contrast. It talks about a famine and hungering and thirsting. And so I encourage you to look that up. And also in Galatians chapter 5, verse 22, talks about some of the fruits of the Spirit. And I thought there was a connection there. So see if maybe you see that or not. So these two words kind of fit into that. But what it's preparing you for is Jesus is admonishing them to have this relentless, constant striving to do tzedakah. And what was holding me back from publishing this yesterday was that I could not find a good um, reference or translation, interpretation, unpacking of what tzedakah is. You will find it in our Christian Bibles and even in the Hebrew scriptures translated as righteousness. That word righteousness or rightness was created back when the early Bible translators, I don't know if it was Tyndale or if it was I think it was Tyndale, who was translating the Bible into English. He had to come up with a word. And of course, translators are tasked with not putting a whole paragraph down. They try to get a word for word translation. And so he created the word righteousness or rightness from the English that existed at that time in, I think it was either around the 14th century. And we've read it. I have always struggled to understand what righteousness truly was trying to convey. I've heard it as right living, right acting, doing the right thing, and that all makes sense. And that's very close. You're not wrong in that translation, but the Hebrew has so much more, has so much more to it. So hang on a little bit here as we go a little bit deeper. So this word is normally translated as righteousness or justice. I chose to leave it untranslated because I want to encourage you to not be satisfied with my translation of it and to do your own personal study because there's so much material. There are books written about it. It comes from an expanded meaning of loyalty and relationship to cause these characteristics. Then that's where I had left it as of yesterday. But then when I started reading in the book To Heal a Fractured World, I saw Rabbi Sachs came up with a writing on this that just aligned with me and resonated so much that I felt this was what I was looking for, and I wanted to share that with you. So pretty much word for word from his book, it says here that tzedakah joins together two concepts, charity and justice. However, he points out that in English, an act of charity cannot be an act of justice, nor can an act of justice be described as charity. But yet this word tzedakah encompasses it and uses the indication that if you give something to someone, are you giving it to this person because they deserve it, because it is justice and it is due them? Or are you giving it to them because they are needy and they're receiving it as charity? And I think the point behind is it really doesn't matter for us who are doing the giving. And tzedakah admonishes us to think about it that we don't have to classify this as an act of justice or an act of charity. We just have to give. And tzedakah is teaching us to give without any baggage to it, without any prejudice, without any ideas of, well, here's how they should use it, or here's how I want them to use it. It is just giving for the sake of giving. And he ties it into a concept that's called social justice and looking at it from a Jewish point of view that God owns everything and that he has given it to us to be stewards and caretakers. And the idea is that no one should be without the basic requirements of existence, and that those who have more than they need are under obligation to share some of that surplus with those who have less. Society of Israel was charged with creating a culture where everyone has a basic right to a dignified life and equal worth as they are under the sovereignty or the kingdom of God. Just beautiful, beautiful imagery and beautiful words that challenge me. Maybe it challenges you. Am I doing my part? Am I fulfilling God's kingdom in this realm with all that God has given me? This word is first mentioned in Genesis chapter 18, verses 17 through 19, as applying to Abraham. And it was, as he points out, it was the quality that possibly made God single him out and make Abraham the father of faithful, the father of the Jewish people, Hebrews. It was because of this um, desire to do tsedakah. And I hope you will do your own study on this word. It is just an incredibly powerful word, and I'm sure you will find meanings that are even deeper than what I have shared here. So it says that they will have this hungerness and thirstiness to do these things to right the wrongs in the world, to help those who are less fortunate, to work at achieving justice and giving charity and bringing that together to make the world a better place. And so it's let's sadek ki haim yis be'u. So what also threw me here is at the end it says if they do this, they accomplish this amount of tzedakah, they will be satisfied. Well, what does satisfied mean here? They're obviously giving, they have something they're sharing with. Why are they doing this, and what is this satisfaction? What we see here in the Hebrew is this word is in an imperfect sense, which means that it has not yet been accomplished, and it's something that will be ongoing or will be accomplished at a later time. And just a little bit of that searching brought up just a treasure chest of unpacking. um, I found a reference in Psalm chapter 37, verse 19, to a famine and the satisfying of of their thirst and their hunger. Beautiful reading there. Also, this word is based upon the number seven. If you've learned your counting in Hebrew, you'll see a relationship there. It's a word that indicates completeness. The number seven is throughout the Bible used as God's number, but it indicates completeness. It's also a word used when they perform an oath or they're swearing in allegiance or making a promise. It's something it's called to do it in sevens, in, indicating that you would either perform it seven times to indicate completeness, something that wouldn't be gone back upon, tied in here. So it's just beautiful to find these root word meanings. In the Talmud, which is a kind of an unpacking or an exposition, if you will, of the Hebrew Bible by the sages in the section of Shabbat 113b, verse 12, they compare this satisfying with Ruth's good deeds and her being satisfied with her marriage to Boaz. Starts to bring in an understanding of this loyalty, of giving themselves, of going into a place where she was married and fulfilled and bringing into a completeness, and the Messiah would come through her. And in fact, in this Talmud, they even compare this with the future return of the Messiah. So, what you got to ask yourself is, could Jesus have been making a hint to this when he was talking to these Jewish people on the hillside who knew how the rabbis interpreted these scriptures? They learned them by memorization, so they didn't have to look it up because most of them weren't literate. Most of them did not have any means to take notes or to have copies of any of the scriptures. They learned it by memorization, so they would have heard these teachings all through their life. Could he be talking about himself in this? Reference on page 1516 of Marcus Jastro's, the Aramaic lexicon, brings out some wonderful things. And then also, I was drawn to Psalm chapter 17, verse 15, where David talks about that I shall be satisfied when I awake in his likeness. So many different layers. Of course, on the surface, you can be satisfied here on this earth. When you do good deeds, you get some reward, personal satisfaction from that. But then there's also a spiritual realm. There's also a realm in God's kingdom as he sees and possibly rewards you. And then the satisfaction someday when I awake in his likeness, knowing that I have lived my life for him and did my striving or strove to achieve this realm of tzedakah so that I can be satisfied when I know that I've pleased Him with a life well lived. So thank you so much for joining us in this study of this Hebrew text, and I just pray you have a blessed day and look forward to talking to you again next time. Bye bye.